Daytona International Speedway has always been known for wacky weather. Whether it be a sudden rain shower taking over 20 race cars out in one corner, or lightning storms sitting overhead for nearly 10 hours, weather appears to always be an issue at Daytona. And of course, tornadoes are included in that. Tornadoes are always associated with that of the Midwest and the Great Plains. With the amount of storms down in Florida, a supercell always has the potential to develop something. On 3 occasions, Daytona International Speedway became oh so close to being hit by one of these monsters.
This is what we've been waiting to see. Cars on the track here at the Daytona International Speedway. The first of the 2 qualifying races that will set the field for Sunday's running of the 48th annual Daytona 500.
During the 2006 Daytona duels, cloud cover hung heavy over the track. The race went on as no moisture had fallen and Duel 1 was green. Nearing lap 21, as cars raced at 200 miles an hour, a shape was forming just outside of turns 1 and 2.
Position to qualify for the Daytona 500.
Jeff Burton in the 31 started on the pole. He slipped back in the field. Allen on Jeff Burton.
Yeah, Bill, remember Jeff Burton told us before the race that the reason he wanted to run this race full out was to find out what he needed to know for the Daytona 500 on Sunday.
This is an image that you've probably seen on either Twitter or Reddit. A fairly clear conical shape outside the racetrack. Now, while it seems certain that a race was ran while a tornado was outside the track by less than 5 miles, there's actually no report that such a thing occurred. A radar appeared to show no signs of any rotation in the sky that day. Also, no damage was reported per Tornado Archive. But I think the more conclusive photo actually was the lap before, after commercial break.
The Hershey's Kissables 300 for the NASCAR Busch Series, and then Sunday on NBC, the 48th annual Daytona 500. Big racing weekend, first one of the year, coming up TNT Saturday and NBC on Sunday.
We got some trouble way back here with Paul Menard. He has dropped all the way back to the back of the pack right there. You see him right there. So this is not working out the plan for that team.
Here you can tell that it isn't a cloud. It's a vapor funnel. And by the trajectory of where that is, it appears that it is tracking west of the track, which if you follow on a map, is more than likely the other side of Interstate 95, which on that side of the freeway has nothing but thick woodland and very few houses. What's very interesting is if you slow this down, you can very faintly see what appears to be the vortices of a tornado rotating about the center. Usually there is a series of smaller vapor funnels that carry the power of the twister, and create almost a walking-like motion, which you can see here. The best comparison I can make to what is happening in this frame-by-frame shot is that of the iconic Dead Man Walking tornado that occurred in Jarrell, Texas on May 27, 1997. This example is obviously on a much larger scale, that being an F5 tornado, and this being more likely an EF0 or EF1. This probably only lasted about 5 to 10 minutes as well, not being there on the restart of the race after a caution on lap 32. Now this doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but if it had formed closer or even at the speedway during the race, damage to the track would have been the least of the concerns. EF0 tornadoes can still develop up to 85 mile an hour winds, and EF1s could develop up to 110 mile an hour winds, and that could have wreaked havoc on the Cup field. Not to mention the grandstands full of fans.
As you can see, everything just blew the hangover. Just talking to the video, showing the video what happened. Clearing martial law, helicopters flying around. What a hell of a night.
Unlike the previous, this is a confirmed on-the-ground F2 tornado. On February 22, 1998, exactly 1 week after Dale Earnhardt's triumphant Daytona 500 victory, unsteadiness brewed in the Floridian skies. Known as the 1998 Central Florida tornado outbreak, 7 twisters whipped through this area. The first to occur was at 10:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It formed roughly where the previous twister did, on the other side of I-95, and began moving toward the speedway. During this time, a 41-year-old Mark Price and fiancée Jennifer Johnson sat in a mobile home, and eventually was struck by the twister, throwing them over the freeway and killing Mark in the process. Jennifer would survive, as 4 semi-trucks were flipped on the interstate as well, traversing over the freeway and moving within 2 miles of the track. As Daytona's newly built lighting system began experiencing the outer bands of a tightly formed F2 tornado, it continued to bear down. The tornado had a very linear path, and it spread to 150 yards wide, and worked eventually across International Speedway Boulevard. On the map here, you can see it. It was on the same side of the road according to the archive, right next to the front stretch of Daytona. There is conflicting information I found later on that says this tornado actually went south of the speedway by about half a mile, but regardless, the track was missed by a tornado that damaged nearly 600 permanent structures and caused $4 million in damage by less than 1,000 yards. After pushing past the speedway, it injured another 3 people, but eventually it would lift into the sky. But sadly, that was just the start of 7 tornadoes that would tear across Central Florida that day. A total of 42 victims would lose their lives during the outbreak. This one, however, was the only one to get close to Daytona that day. As many celebrated the holidays with their families, unsteadiness filled the skies above Daytona International Speedway. The tornado dropped just outside both the speedway and the airport, and began wreaking havoc on the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. 50 of the school's training planes were heavily damaged or destroyed, along with an aircraft hangar. Another hangar was set ablaze by the damaging winds, and one of the school's administrative buildings was also destroyed as well. The tornado pushed into the city of Daytona, and heavily damaged a Sutton Place apartments complex. Thankfully, since it was the holiday break, no students or faculty were at the campus when the tornado struck, saving countless students from injury or worse. The college was able to rebuild quite admirably. Ironically, the tornado cleared a straight path through the campus, allowing them to put the main walkway following the footsteps of the twister. So what does this have to do with the speedway? Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University is less than 2 miles away from Daytona International Speedway. And had this tornado dropped just a mile or 2 to the west, it would have been in the center of the racetrack. While few were injured, many lost their homes and apartments to the tornado on Christmas Day, creating what was supposed to be a magical morning into an afternoon of disaster. Few were injured, and luckily no one was killed. But it serves as a reminder that Daytona isn't just prone to having hurricanes hit it, but tornadoes as well.